that reaction right away from Mr. Vikram Kirloskar, who's joining us right now. Vikram, good to have you with us. And, it's almost deja vu. I remember when I spoke to you last, of course, it was bad news that you were receiving. It's finally some relief. I mean, after many months of waiting and hoping for some kind of a change in this stance that the court had taken.
Yes, it's a big relief. I haven't got full details as yet, except for the fact that they've lifted the ban on Toyota Innovas by paying 1% cess. It's certainly a relief because our customers in Delhi certainly want the car. It's a low emission car. We follow the rules, and I'm quite pleased that this has finally come through.
Implication of this, because I know that in the meanwhile you've of course had to sort of rejig a little bit of your own strategy. We have seen that you've accelerated bringing in the petrol Innova as well, for instance, on that new Crista platform. It has, of course, dented your business too, the last 8 months.
We've lost a lot of business in the last 8 months. I think more than 1,000 cars a month in Delhi. But more than anything else, it's been tough for our dealers and tough for our customers. That is the biggest concern for us. The petrol Innova was an alternate, not because of the diesel ban. We were planning to bring it in any case because we wanted to offer the customers an alternate. So now we have both available in Delhi.
What does this mean for your policy going forward, though, Vikram? Because I know there's been lots of questions being asked to, not just Toyota, of course, but everyone, saying that, look, going forward, to sort of play it safe, are you going to look at smaller displacement engines, or would you like to see a much clearer sort of picture coming out in terms of just a very definite long-term strategy or policy from the government side when it comes to engine displacement as well as fuel type?
I'll tell you what my basic idea is. Bharat Stage 6 will come 2020, okay, and we are fine with that. We are ready for that, and we'll go ahead with that. What we are asking the government is that this kind of an industry, the auto industry, requires high investment. The life cycle costs, the life cycles of vehicles are 7 years, 8 years. So you need a policy which is sustainable, which is a given policy over a 10, 15-year period. You cannot make changes every 2-3 years. I have no problem with the toughest of world standards to be put in. And I think bulk of my colleagues in the industry are also okay with that. But they want a clear roadmap which doesn't get changed. Once we get on a particular product development and engineering roadmap, changing it in between is very, very difficult. And it's not viable. That's what gets us upset and gets us, wondering whether we should make the investment at all. So what I implore the government is, please make the roadmap clear. Whether it's emissions, safety, CAFE, whatever, at least 10, 15 years. You'll see a good lot of investment coming in, and all of us will be clear on what we have to do.
Vikram, to that point, though, I mean, when it comes to these kind of things, we've seen it happen in the past. It's not the first time. I mean, sub 4 meter rule was another thing we were talking about just before we got you on the phone line. It is, perhaps not a lesson learned in that sense, because we've seen people slowing down their investment in the past. We've seen, certain brands almost being reluctant to go forward with some big strategies in India. So, is it still a case where we're not learning that lesson, perhaps?
I don't know. Government understands this time. See, we've got this whole thing of Make in India. We must promote Make in India. To my best of my understanding, the Indian car industry is very competitive on a global basis. We're one of the largest exporters of cars in the world. So there's a big scope, not only for the Indian market, but also for the export market for automobiles. Okay, and which is a huge employment generator. We are ready to go with global technology, global levels of emission, global everything. So I think the best way is just to sort of adopt global levels everywhere in reasonable times and stick with it. Don't make changes later on. That's what my request would be. It's an opportunity for not only the car manufacturers, but it's an opportunity for engineering industry to get, to increase in size, to increase manufacturing in India. I'm pleased with today's decision. I'm relieved, and I hope things go well forward.
A point, of course, that I have to ask you, and I know that you haven't had really the time to absorb this news yet, but that 1% cess that was talked about is something that was recommended, of course, by the court initially and then now being adopted in its ruling. Will that be a huge price impact on the car's actual ex-showroom price?
I think it will be added to the price, yes.
Could you give us an indication of how much that would mean in terms of a change?
I haven't had it. I'm in the car driving from actually. I just heard this decision. I'm trying to I haven't even had a chance to see it. Everyone's calling me right now.
I can imagine that. No, but I know you mentioned, of course, that it's a sense of relief for you coming through. The fact that the Supreme Court has today said this, that look, the ban's been lifted, the automakers have agreed on this 1% cess, and that's the way going forward. There is still the whole point about, what happens in the future with not just a particular displacement, but diesel engines in general. I mean, there's also talk about cars beyond 10 years not being allowed to run on Delhi's roads. That, again, would be something you'd like to see clarity on.
The whole issue on that is, we have to remove all polluting vehicles off the road. There's no question on that. My request is, do it in a way which is acceptable. You sell the idea to the public and make the idea palatable to the public. Do it on basis of emission, that you start with high emission vehicles being removed first, then secondly the lower emissions, and then later on even more lower emissions. Do something which the public appreciates and it's implementable. We have to fight for the environment, okay? And I have no issue with that, but it has to be implementable, and it has to be done in a way where the general public accepts it.
But could there still be incentivizing for greener vehicles as well? And the other point, which I remember you have spoken very clearly about, for us to have an incentivized scrappage policy as well.
Yes, an incentivized scrappage policy, I think the government is trying to bring about it. There's a proposal from the Road Transport Ministry. I think they'll iron out it's now gone to the general stakeholders to understand and make comments on it. I hope something comes out of it.
I appreciate your time today, and I am happy for you. I suppose we should congratulate Toyota and the others as well who've suffered, the last 8 months. All the very best with those plans, and it's good to hear that relief in your voice today. All right. That was Vikram Kirloskar, of course, from Toyota Kirloskar Motors, on his way to the factory, as he mentioned. And remember, Toyota's Innova is one of the best-selling cars in India, not just for Toyota, but across all segments. Severely impacted by that decision, and at a time which was seen as bad timing for Toyota, because it was on the verge of launching a new generation of the Innova when this ban actually went through. That Innova, of course, launched in the rest of the country, but not here in the NCR region. Now you have the petrol Innova that literally last week launched here in Delhi, but besides that, now, of course, the diesel is also now going to go on sale here. Not a huge price impact is what perhaps we're expecting. You heard there, of course, Vikram Kirloskar saying it's too early. They will sit down with their calculators and do some math on that. And I'm sure we'll get that from them. But the significant part of what he said is that 1% will be passed on to the consumers. So expect that from all car makers. The 1% cess being passed on means that there would be a slight bump up on the diesel above 2-liter diesel engine vehicle prices, not just here in the NCR, but possibly in certain other regions as well. Though, of course, my understanding of the court ruling is that the cess is only applicable to sales of vehicles here in the National Capital Region.